So I was watching a video, and one of the comments said they should make a movie where all of the characters you've played, like, meet up, and it's like an Into the Ryan Reynolds verse type thing. And my question is, if that were, like, pitched to you, would you do that?
Honestly, that sounds like pure, unadulterated hell. I can't think of anything worse. I can't think of anything more expensive, but also anything worse, which is just a terrible combination. It's not just terrible, but it's expensive, Mr. Reynolds. No, that's such a sweet idea, but honestly, it's horrible. Never think of it again. Never think of it again, never speak of it again.
I won't.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Everyone, please welcome our Q&A moderator from Netflix Geeked, Terri Schwartz.
There we go. What an experience getting to watch a Netflix movie in a theater, am I right? Yes. And what an awesome one, too. You guys got such a cool sneak peek, not just people gosh. Whoa. But everyone, no? No? There we go. Everyone who's been watching all of I'm not going to blow out your ears. How are we doing? Maybe? Coming back, can you hear me? Okay. But everyone who's been watching across the country as well in Cinemark theaters, so very exciting. You are not here to see me. You are here for our very special guests who are joining me for this awesome early Q&A before the Adam Project comes out this Friday. So without further ado, help me welcome to the stage Walker Scobell, our new star of the movie. Walker. I feel like you need to do like a nice jog or an action pose out here. Also our leading lady, Garner. And of course, last but not least, Reynolds. I sound like a long dramatic. You're in the center, yeah. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, wow.
Weren't they great, my voice?
Mom, you're embarrassing me.
Now, I've seen this movie a couple of times now, but it has been such a treat to get to see it on the big screen. It's pretty cool. You've seen it a couple of times now in the theaters, though, at this point.
A couple hundred times.
Oh, just a couple hundred.
Yes, I definitely have. There's nothing like the big screen. That's pretty amazing, though, watching it now. I got to see it in the big screen for the first time a couple weeks ago, and that was super special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, as I said, this is an early screening of The Adam Project, which comes out on Netflix and in select Cinemark theaters around the country this Friday. But Ryan, this is the second time you've worked with director Shawn Levy, the first time being Free Guy, which came out last year.
Which Terri's in as well.
It's the special reason I got to come tonight.
Yep.
You only allow people who you've worked with before to moderate
100%.
Q&As. It's an ever-growing list, though, so, just know in the future we'll all be coming back. But no, I'm curious, talk to me a little bit about why you and Shawn decided this is the project you wanted to be your second collaboration. I heard you settled on it while you were making Free Guy, what Shawn called your middle-aged bromance you two have developed moving forward.
Yeah, we are the human personification of dude rock at this point. I was working on Free Guy with Shawn, and one of the things one of the characteristics about Shawn that I just find very unique is that he's like, I wish I'd met him earlier in my life, sort of like a genuine work marriage. And there's something about it, he makes me better at what I do, and I like to think that I push him in ways that he's not necessarily comfortable in. And we both really love 80s Amblin, E.T., Back to the Future, that kind of Spielbergian, spectacle-driven wish fulfillment that can still be about something really emotional. So we were looking for something in that world. Specifically, we were looking for something that dealt with fathers and sons. And we had another project that we were on quite literally the 1 yard line with, And it had an element in the movie where this man meets his father and they happen to be the same age. And there was something really interesting about that to me, seeing a father as a peer as opposed to a parent. And it would just, you'd see him through the prism of of humanity as opposed to parenthood. And the movie wasn't right. But then, we ended up ditching it. We were very sad, but and then suddenly, like a weird guardian angel, David Ellison at Skydance came in and brought in this project called the Atom Project, and it was everything we would ever dream of. And then Sean and Jonathan Tropper, one of the writers, and I holed up in upstate New York and just did this giant rewrite on the script, and from then on, it's just moved so fast. I mean, I realized we shot this over a year ago, but it literally feels like this all happened in the space of 2 weeks.
Can I just say, getting to watch this collaboration up close, they are exceedingly polite to each other, and they're like two puppies that Ryan would be like, you know what would be great? You know what would be, I think you're so wonderful. Do you know, in addition to what you've wonderfully already done, what would be even exceed that expectation? How if we twisted it this way? Oh man, God, you're a genius. God, that's incredible. I'm so lucky to get to work with you. Let's do just that thing. And there's a bit of that goes back and forth, and it's highly entertaining, but also incredibly effective.
We'll cut to the edit room where it's like, you shut your stupid Canadian mouth. We're gonna do it this way, we're gonna get the hell out.
I didn't see that part.
No,
Okay?
it went there. We disagree well. It's like conflict resolution is like the bedrock of all good relationships, I think,
Well, I was going to say that was like the best Sean Levy impression I think
really
I've ever seen.
Really
I don't know if you guys have seen an interview with Sean before, but that was on the money.
Yeah. You caught the bird-like movements as well that really nailed Sean.
Well, that's so interesting, though, that your previous project you were talking about doing with him had that instance of a father and a son meeting at the same age, which of course we see in the third act of this movie, but you layered in the brilliant opportunity to get to meet your 12-year-old self and cast in his first role ever, which is like blowing my mind, the perfect young Ryan Reynolds in Walker. No pressure, right? So, Walker, tell me a little bit about how you got to this part, because from what I understand, it's a bit of kismet. You were like already the biggest Ryan Reynolds fans. I've seen the cutest photos that your dad has shared with us of like you as Green Lantern and Deadpool and Guy last year for Halloween, and you had a little bit of a talent that they discovered in the end of the audition process. If you want to talk a little bit about that superpower.
Yeah, I can recite every word of Deadpool too. I would do it, but my grandma's watching, I'm pretty sure.
Don't do that right now, please.
There might
Especially the beginning, middle, and end part.
There might be video evidence on Ryan Reynolds' Instagram, though. If anyone wants
Yes,
to.
there is. He's on my Instagram doing, I did end up blow darting him and stopping him midway through before it got too heavy, but yeah.
But Walker, talk to me a little bit about like the experience of getting to come to this movie and meet Ryan, but also like personify him and get to play that role of young Adam and create that character together.
Well, it was really weird to like see Ryan and Jen and Mark and Zoe like in person, because I'm so used to seeing them on TV and stuff that like seeing them in front of me was just, I don't know, it didn't really feel real.
It's still not. This is VR, actually. I feel like we've talked about the Deadpool 2 beat enough, but I want to know how many lines of 13 going on 30 you know by heart. That's the soon. That'll be the Atom Project too, right? I'm curious. Actually, this is a question. My microphone going in and out. A question that we got from Cinemark social media from Not Rooftop for both Ryan and Walker. What was your favorite bonding experience between the two of you on and off set? Who wants to take it first?
I know mine. Mine was the first day I got to shoot with Walker. We were shooting this scene where we're shooting the scene where he discovers me in the garage for the first time, and I'm this kind of broken, beat up, bleeding pilot who happens to be him. But I remember his tooth came out that day, and the producer in me was like, "Oh shit! Like, we need a dentist." I realize he's a kid, and you don't put those ones back in, or there's a meth problem. Child actor, so let's see how this goes. But it turns out it was like your molar, right? It was your back, yeah. So we were totally fine. I don't think you lost one more tooth in the making of the movie, but not anywhere in the front, in the grill. We were getting ready to fit him for an actual grill, but it wasn't even a grill, it was just teeth. That was, I think, probably our best bonding experience though, because it was, that was a little shocking. You weren't expecting that. What did you eat? You ate something from the craft service, like a rock?
Yeah, I think I lost 4 teeth during filming of it. But yeah, I think, one of the best pieces of advice that Ryan gave me was don't enroll into cocaine.
Look, young. All right, listen, easy. Remember when we talked about the out of context thing? No, I mean, young guy going into show business. Come on, there's a few cautionary tales there.
Well done.
No, he's got his head screwed on right. Honestly, if you meet Walk's parents and his brother and sister, it's just the whole thing. They've got it going on. And one of the great things about Walker, I think, is that he doesn't have the kind of showbiz family that's sort of pushing him into this business, whether he likes it or not. He's genuinely here because he loves it, and I think that that's a great thing to foster with a kid. It's a slippery slope if you go the other way. And, I think everybody's kind of aware of those kinds of pitfalls, so it's been great. And also, first experience with, I think, some pretty good people. You can't really go wrong with Jen Garner standing on the set, watching over you.
Bejuzies out of him.
Yeah.
There were so many parents on this set, and all of us were quarantined. Well, you had your family with you, the bulk of the movie. But I was quarantined away from my own boy, and I was just like, oh, I'll take it. Come on, Walker, let's hang out. Show me how to play a video game. And meanwhile, this guy was home with his dad, away from his mom, brother, and sister, and at night you were eating pizza and playing video games, like a maniac.
It's so I always find it funny though in movies, because you can always a lot of times you can tell when an actor who's playing like a mother or father has actually never in their life held a kid. And there's a moment in the film where Jen, right at the end, where he gives her that break a rib kind of hug, and he grabs her, and it's this really beautiful moment, and then they have this little kind of kung fu fight for a second, but Jen grabs him and sort of smacks his face and holds him, and my wife Blake was like, that's a friggin' mama. Because unless you have kids, that's how you grab kids. It's just all love, and it's such a beautiful moment between you guys. I really love that. So.
Well, that's actually a great segue, Ryan. We're looking at my questions beforehand because
I
know you talked a little bit about how you, Sean, and screenwriter Jonathan Hopper kind of like really personalized the movie, but I'm curious, Jen and then Walker, like what, if any, experiences did you bring to the story and your character to really kind of make it? Because it's so emotionally resonant. It's so like charming and as cool sci-fi, but then it really, those emotional beats really hit. So I'm curious, starting with you, Jen, if there was anything that you felt like you brought to the movie.
Well, I mean, you just bring yourself, don't you? It's not like I can bring meeting my son as an adult to the movie, although I'm sure he's going to be fabulous. Can't wait. But yeah, you just show up with what you have, and luckily, if the words are really great and if the story makes sense, it's just so fun to go on the ride of it, and that was definitely the case. And I had Ryan to work off of, and Mark and Walker, and then Sean there, kind of needling away. It was a blast.
Is there anything that you really brought in kind of your own experience to the movie?
Probably like thousands of hours of watching Deadpool.
I truly love, like, now at the end you've been doing press for several weeks and everything, and how good Walker can give it back to you, Ryan. Like,
oh no, yeah. I looked, and there's no off button there, nowhere. Walk also, when you hand him the bow staff in the movie, that sort of thing that he calls not a lightsaber, that's where I was like, oh, you've watched way too much Deadpool. He just starts spinning that thing and flipping it around himself and doing all kinds of stuff. But I wanted to touch on one thing with Jen. There's a scene in this movie in the bar where I see her for the first time, and I don't plan on running into my mom in the movie, and it's just a kind of an accident, but she sits down and we have this really, I think, a really beautiful scene. And I remember that we did like 2 takes of that scene at first, and I've been worried about that scene since the earliest rewrites. I mean, it was just a really tricky scene to kind of nail, because you can push too hard and then it's a problem. You can not push enough and it's also a problem. And I remember the first couple takes we did of it I had a really tough time. And then I remember to just listen to you and just look at you. And it's probably one of my favorite scenes I've ever been a part of because I did the least amount of work I've ever done in my life. I just looked at Jen Garner. And it was one of those great things, and I said this to you after we got out of the edit room for the first time, which was, it's amazing to work with actors sometimes when you know their work really well and they've blown you away for a long, long time. But then you work with them and they do something yet that's still revelatory. Like you're like, I've never seen you do that before. Wow, and I got a front row seat to it. And that was one of my favorite, I think, experiences in this whole film. And that was the last scene I shot in the whole movie too. I wrapped the movie in after that scene, but that was my favorite moment with Jen.
I love that scene so much, and it's interesting hearing you say that too, because it is true, like the moment Adam has the scene with his mother and this kind of like time he wouldn't have expected to have back, you do see you kind of sit there and you're like, I need to be present in this moment and in that conversation. You're both just so in it as she kind of realizes, oh, this isn't just like a random guy hitting on me at a bar, it's like someone actually offering something really insightful to me, and so that's so cool to hear that.
It was just a really special day. It was special that it was Ryan's last day and it was my first, and the crew in Vancouver just loves Ryan and Sean so much that, you know, they're their guys, and so it was, and I love that crew. I've worked with them a ton, so all around felt really great. And Sean, I was so emotional going in because there's so much there. There's nothing like a mom and a son. There isn't anything like it. And so yeah, it was so incredibly emotional, and it was like, okay, all right, you got rid of that a little bit. Dial it back now, be a normal person. But I have a question. Did you guys laugh at the top of the scene? No? Because we had a weird experience where...
Oh yeah, we were with one audience that just thought that was the funniest friggin' scene they'd ever seen. I was like, wow.
What?
But that's what I love about seeing a movie with an audience. Like, each one's totally unique and different.
Okay, but was it like laughing so you don't cry laughter? Because I've been there.
Before they
just at the very beginning, they're like, oh no, is this gonna be like Leah Thompson and Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future? Is he gonna kiss his mom?
You're like, that's not the Back to the Future vibe you were going for. Not that one. Other ones, yes, not that one.
No.
I did want to talk a little bit about the Amblin influences, which you talked about at the top, right?
You noticed them?
Just, you know, it was, I can't even make a good joke about it. Yes, they're amazing. Are you kidding me? But okay, Brian, I'm quoting from your Instagram. When this movie wrapped, you tweeted, or you Instagrammed, Gamora, Elektra, the Hulk, Deadpool, and the kid who will eventually play Deadpool when I crawl into a box and turn into a skeleton starred in this movie. But you're now 2 for 2 on making, yes, a nostalgia-driven and referential movie, but a completely original action, adventure, family story. So can you talk about, yes, drawing influences from movies you love, but also like why it is important for you, after having played multiple famous characters and adaptations, to be able to like tell these new stories?
Well, look, I love IP. I mean, I love IP. It's amazing.
Rolls off the tongue. I love IP.
No, but source material is great. I mean, you know, I'm a big fan of comic book movies and all that stuff, but it's also, I realize that utter privilege and how lucky we are in the rare air that we breathe to get to make big blockbuster films that are based on an original idea. And I'm super grateful that 20th Century Fox and Disney let us make Free Guy, which is a big original tentpole kind of movie that they just don't green light anymore. And then follow that up immediately with this, which is, you know, certainly a little bit smaller in scale than Free Guy, but I think no less impactful. And I realize that that's just a rarity these days. It just doesn't happen that often. And I just, you know, the more legacy studios and the more streamers that embrace, you know, original storytelling is the better. I mean, I think it's just so important that we create new IPs and new stories to tell, and we nurture and foster that, because otherwise,
and then being breakout successes as well. Only just
that does not hurt.
It does not hurt.
Yeah.
I did want to talk a little bit, and we will have some time for audience questions. So if you have some, start thinking about them. We'll have microphones going around. But I wanted to ask a couple more questions. So the end of the movie, that catch scene. Every time I see this movie, it hits me harder and harder. It's just such a beautiful way to kind of like tie the knot in this father-son story. And so I'm curious, where did it come from? Like all the ways to kind of have these characters say goodbye to each other and the Adams kind of go back to their timeline. Does anyone know the backstory behind where that sequence came from?
It came from one of the earliest rewrites with Jonathan Tropper and Sean and myself, and it's there's a bunch of things in there that are picked from each of our lives. You know, the boys always come back for their mamas is a line I say to Jen in the bar, and that scene is largely constructed around my relationship and my brother's relationship with my mom when my father passed away. You know, she was shocked because we had I'll say complicated childhood with our father. He was a difficult guy. He was not an easy guy to be around, but you know, we all kind of fled. And when he died, we all came back for our mom. And you know, my mom was sort of shocked at the time. She's like, why are you all here? And I said, well, boys, they come back for their mamas, and that's why we're here. And it was just, these little things that sort of, you know, they might seem like a small thing, but they tie the whole thing together. They catch with their dad. This is all based on, very much on my own experiences with my father. I had all kinds of stories I had about this man as I became an adult. That, you know, they were stories, and one day I asked myself, is that true? Was my dad this? Was he distant? Was he broken? Was he all of those things? And some of those answers are yes, but he was also there. You know, he was the guy that would step out and play ball with me every day. Like, if I asked him to play catch, no question, no matter what was going on, he'd drop whatever he was doing, and he would head outside and we'd throw that ball around. Even if we weren't speaking, he would still throw that ball at me. So those are little things that are just kind of drawn from real experiences, and you know, and I just love that we really tackled this idea, and I think a lot of parents that are probably sitting in this audience can understand this is that, you know, it's very easy to cast the superhero and it's very easy to cast the supervillain, and I really believe that somewhere in the middle is the parent, and it's just plain as day. I mean, you know, I think just yesterday, my daughter and I, it almost ended in a messy stabbing death for me. She wanted me dead. And she's 2.5. But you know, you realize it just vacillates so fast from one to the other, but as you get older, some of those stories galvanize, you know, and a lot of the stories I told about my dad were stories that made up for my own deficits and deficiencies and things like that. And it wasn't necessarily true about him, I just needed those stories to make sense of my own bullshit. And I think that's one of the things we sort of tackle without hitting too much of that subtext head on. And that's where the catch comes from. That's just really it. That was a 400,000 word essay on one simple question I could have just answered.
That was an amazing answer. And I do love, as you're saying that, I mean, I see that in like one of my favorite things about the movie and the way the Adam and Adam relationship evolves is how much young Adam does challenge adult Adam with that and does pause him and say, hey, wait, you're remembering Dad all wrong. Like, for me, it was 2 years ago, and he would always take that time. And Walker, I think you do such an amazing job, and I mean, you have that line where it's like, you got the muscles and you lost the brain, like, along the way, but really, really humanizing the story and grounding it. That's just praise.
How was that scene for you, though, sitting on that picnic bench and outside that hotel? Because that was a lot of words for you. It was a big scene. We'd rewritten that last minute, right? We handed it to you, and you just, I mean, I was blown away. I can tell you my experience, but I want to hear your perspective on that.
Well, it was one of the scenes I did in the audition, but I think it changed a lot from the final scene. And the whole time, I was nervous that I would screw up and I wasn't going to get that scene right. But we got there and we sat down at the picnic table and I said the first few lines and then it all just came out and I didn't even realize I was saying it anymore.
That's amazing. That scene is awesome. All right. On that emotional note, now it's time for some audience questions. Am I right? Do we have I cannot see.
There's one.
I see one. There should be a microphone coming to you.
Sing it out, honey. Go ahead.
Oh, we want to have everyone say it into the microphone so everyone watching in other Cinemarks can watch as well.
Oh, there are other people. Where are we?
There are.
Oh, hi everyone. I didn't know.
There are people watching all over the country, including hilariously my mom, brother, and brother's girlfriend, where I was like, hey, here's this funny press release, I'm moderating a Q&A, and they were like, they didn't respond, and they were like, oh, we bought tickets.
Yeah, there's like a whole bunch of cities watching at the same time. Jen has a whole routine she does where she starts to take shots at Detroit. So I would just stick to this one.
There are a bunch of questions in the middle, but I see this gentleman with the white shirt right in the center, which doesn't make it easy for you, Chrissy, but it's coming your way. Gentleman in the white shirt, if you want to keep. There we go. All right, nailed it. What's your question?
So, like, to the theme of the movie, how would you guys, like, react both inside and out to meeting either your future selves or your younger selves?
Walker, let's start with you. What would it be like meeting your future self?
Well, I really hope I'm ripped.
You're gonna grow up into Ryan Reynolds. It's gonna work out pretty well for you.
Not gonna end well.
How about you, Jen? What would your advice to your younger or older self be?
Well, I hope I'm ripped too, but
I have great news for you. Have you seen Alias?
my older self, I'd just be taking notes. Just what do I need to pay attention to? What am I building toward? What am I so lucky? What do I need to really enjoy? And my younger self, I'd just crack right up with that little gal.
I like to keep my expectations low, so I hope that my future self is just riddled with arthritis.
Then it's all uphill from there.
Can't even move. Yeah.
So you remain limber
Yeah.
the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay, great question. Do we have another one to our lovely runners?
How about right here in the black?
And I'm so sorry, we have blinding lights on us, so you are all a big kind of like amorphous blob, but I'm sure you all are all fabulous, and you look great.
This is a question for Ryan Reynolds. What is your favorite?
You can just go with Ryan.
What was your favorite movie to be in?
What was my favorite movie to do? To be in?
Yeah.
Oh,
Adam Project.
yeah. So many wrong answers.
Every single studio is also watching. We're broadcasting
like,
there too.
Don't you fucking say it, man.
Don't you feel like Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place?
Yeah, my sitcom was pretty great. That was one of the best jobs I ever had in my life. It really was one of the best jobs I ever had. They shouldn't even call that work. You think we work like 4 hours a day. You have 3 weeks on, 1 week off. But I would say for a movie, you know, Deadpool's always gonna have a special place in my heart because it took 10 years to kind of roll that rock up the hill and all sorts of crazy stuff happened to get it made. So that's a big one. But Free Guy and Adam Project, they're neck and neck. Like those are just two of the best and most beautiful working relationships I've ever had with Sean Levy, who is not only one of my closest friends, but I just think he's a genius. So.
What might tip one of those movies over for you?
I would say Adam for me because I tend to avoid vulnerability at all costs, and Adam I had to sort of lean right into that thing that I sometimes, but that's good for us, you know, to do that. I think I want to wear an adult diaper just talking about it right now. So yeah, I'd say Adam Project was a little bit more stretchy, and yeah, I think it's pretty special.
And you got to film it in your hometown too. You got to shoot it in Vancouver. Have you gotten to film a lot there before?
Well, the movies I produce, I typically push them there. So both Deadpool movies were shot there. This was shot there, but Free Guy was shot in Boston. Which is great because I live in New York, so it's very close to home. But yeah, I love shooting in Vancouver. Not just because it's a great town to shoot in with amazing crews, but it's also, and you've worked a ton there. It's also just a great job generator, and you know, this is a pretty big size movie. So yeah.
You set the bar high for Walker. He's only going back to Vancouver from here on out.
Oh right, I know. Yeah, right.
Do we have another question?
Yes, hi. Question for Ryan. I love this movie, but I absolutely love the backdrop, especially Seattle and the Pacific Northwest. So was that an active choice that was written into the story, or how did that come about?
No, it was we were shooting in Vancouver. Vancouver has incredible, deciduous rainforests that are, stunning. So we really wanted to make use of that. A lot of that stuff was shot in a place called the GVRD in Vancouver, which is used for a lot of locations. They're just these huge Douglas fir trees covered in moss. It actually looks very 80s Amblin kind of ET. So that sort of grew out of our location, and then we really went with it. The whole house set where we throw catch, we play catch and stuff like that's all shot inside at a soundstage in Vancouver, but with a little forest built around it and that sort of thing. But there's a ton of locations outside in the GVRD, which was amazing. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, I think we have time for like 2 more questions. So who do we have next?
I mean, there's a bunch of.
There's a bunch.
Can we do like 3 more or 4 more?
You're the boss. You tell me.
Yeah, I think 4 more maybe. I don't know.
4 more.
If anyone wants to leave too, I understand that as well.
They're on a strict schedule. Yeah. 4 more questions. Oh, go ahead.
So first of all, I have a question for Ryan. Did you have to practice a lot for you to be so good at these stunts?
No, that's sweet cute. I had so many stuntmen. I do. These days it's harder and harder to hide with stuntmen because we're shooting everything on high definition film, high definition cameras. When you shot in film, there was an inherent diffusion. You could kind of sneak a stunt guy in and get away with it. So now we use them where we need to. But I think it's 25 years of doing action movies. You kind of pick up at least a thing or two. I'd be sort of frightened if I didn't. So it's a lot of that, and then the sword stuff, that sort of staff stuff. That's a lot of like Deadpool. You kind of learn how to spin.
The
those
fights
things
were
pretty well.
really good though, Ryan.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. They're fun. I like physical films. I like.
Somebody asked me in an interview if I liked fighting you in this movie. I was like, you didn't see the movie, did you?
No, I always love that.
And you're like, oh, it was great.
I know. I had someone ask me in one of our junket interviews what it was like to have this romantic relationship with you.
Creepy.
Except I didn't correct them. I was just like, it was amazing.
It was great.
They were the person who laughed.
Charts. Yeah.
They watched a completely different movie.
Yeah.
I do want to ask though about one of my favorite moments of physical comedy in the movie, which is when you're both in the ship together and Walker is like getting pulled back by the G's and he's like grabbing your face and all. Like, was that scripted or how did you kind of settle on that being the moment? Because it's so funny. It's so funny, that scene.
It wasn't scripted, but I felt like a bass fish, like with his fingers in my face, eye sockets, mouth, and nose. It was. I think we did about 10 takes of that, right? Yeah, you just.
Where did that come from, Walker?
Yeah, how'd you feel about that?
Well, at first I was like, I wasn't really doing it. I was grabbing onto his seat, and he said, "No, it's okay. Just put your hands on my face." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." And then I did it one take. He's like, "Let's just not do that again."
Let's do it. I remember we ran down a playback. We watched it back and I was like, "Yeah, we don't have to ever do that again." Yeah, he was. He was using my eyelids as handles. It's in the movie too. It's
It's in the trailer. It's in like every marketing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Another question. Who we got?
I actually got one more thing.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
That's why you keep the mic, right? So no one knows I've got this.
So I was actually Free Guy 2 for Halloween.
No way.
And if you search up my dad's name, Will Croyce, you can see me as Free Guy.
No way.
Yeah.
What is your dad's social security number?
That is
Last 4 digits.
I like the sass. You're gonna be just fine. You're gonna be just fine.
Ryan, did you realize when you were making that movie that you were making the easiest and best Halloween costume for the rest of time? It's the best.
I did not, but you know who did? Blake Lively. No, seriously, she was like, listen, whatever you do, just make it like think of Halloween. If you make a costume that people dress up for Halloween, you've done something right. And I'm like, you're right. Which is sort of the reason why I kind of stay in the same thing for the whole movie and become Blue Shirt Guy. That was sort of a late addition. Even the name Blue Shirt Guy is just because of the wardrobe. Yeah, it's a smart note.
I love it.
Yeah,
We got a really
smart
cool
idea.
jacket in this one. Just
Yeah.
okay. All right, another question.
So, I already got something. So, I'm sorry. Ryan, I know you must hear this a lot, but I'm a really big fan. I mean, I didn't memorize all of Deadpool 2, but I'm pretty close, just like 2 or 3 more times watching it. But I have a question for you. Just watching this movie and the "is this a multiverse" scene made me think of something I saw a while ago. So I was watching a video, and one of the comments said they should make a movie where all of the characters you've played like meet up, and it's like an into the Ryan Reynolds verse type thing. And my question is, if that were like pitched to you, would you do that?
Honestly, that sounds like pure unadulterated hell. I can't think of anything worse. I can't think of anything more expensive, but also anything worse, which is just a terrible combination. It's not just terrible, but it's expensive, Mr. Reynolds. No, that's such a sweet idea, but honestly, it's horrible. But never think of it again. Never think of it again, never speak of it again.
I won't.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
All I can picture is who are the Avengers of the Ryan Reynolds multiverse.
Right. No. Stop it. Yeah.
Sorry. Great question. Who do we have next? I think we have
For Ryan, in the scene where you were kissing the girl, was that real?
This is the best Q&A ever.
It's the greatest Q&A ever.
Blake is really throwing her voice.
Yeah. Honey? I guess it was kinda real, but how do I answer this? This is being broadcast everywhere too. I didn't mean it. This is the thing, I don't know how to explain this to my own kids. But they watch this and they're like, "Daddy, what are you doing?" Like, it's like exactly the tactic I would use on them, not anger, but just disappointment. Yeah, great question though. The exit's that way.
I cannot wait to find out what this next question is going to be. All right, who's got something else for us?
Please be favorite color, please be favorite color, please be favorite color.
Well, I'm gonna go a little bit more deep here. My name is Liza, and my question is for Jennifer. Do you think that Adam project kind of like sets the tone for different projects that you want to work on? Ryan said that, it's like different kind of stories, it's more personal than what people are doing right now. Do you feel like this project in your role kind of changes that?
Oh, gosh, that's nice. Well, I mean, nothing would make me happier. I think you do kind of just grow up and evolve. I will be 50 in 39 days. Woo! And so, get used to it. But I think that you do kind of feel like, wait a minute, I have a whole other set of stories I want to tell. I have a whole other story about myself that I'm figuring out. And so, yeah, that does happen. And what a lovely entree into the next decade to kick it off with this beautiful little story. Thank you.
Well, Walker, Jen, and Ryan, this was truly such a pleasure. This movie is such an absolute joy to watch, and I'm so glad we got to share it all with you just a little bit early for this super fun and wonderful Q&A.
Thank you all for staying for this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And to everyone else who's
Question, please. I didn't get to ask mine.
Oh.
Okay.
No one's tackling me off the stage. This is the last one, and then I have a wonderful wrap up. My goodness. Okay.
Where are you?
Yeah.
Because my company's hiring.
Wrap it up. Oh, stop.
No.
Hey, okay. I was thinking this when I came in here, but somebody brought it up, and I hope Netflix is listening. What will it take to get 2 guys and a girl in a pizza place on a streaming service, and can you help?
Wow. I promise you I can't help on that. I mean, I have it on VHS if you'd like some.
It's a
maybe Laserdisc? Yeah, VHS, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it exists anywhere.
It doesn't.
Yeah, less and less even in my head.
Way to finish us off, though.
I know, really, that was spectacular.
Well, we'll run it
Very
up the
good
ladder.
question.
We'll,
I'll throw an email to Ted Sarandos on my way back to the
Perfect.
hotel.
All right, on that note, thank you all so much.
Guy.
Free Guy is out this Friday.
Free
Tell
Guy.
your friends.
Yeah.
Free Guy is out.
Okay, it's all right. It's fine.
Free Guy is out. That project is out this. Oh my gosh. We almost see two guys go on a pizza place. Stuck in my head. Ruined my perfect ending. The Adam Project this Friday.
Everyone, please remain seated while the panel exits and have an excellent evening.